Hey y'all, I'm back with another book review. I just finished You and Me Forever, which is technically a marriage book by Francis Chan and Lisa Chan. So technically I'm not married, and I'm definitely single, but I've been trying to broaden my horizons, and I thought, well, why not? So with this book, I realized why I struggle with Francis Chan. One of the main reasons is he talks in Christianese. So if you're not from the Christian culture, you don't understand a lot of the stuff that they say. And I am from the Christian culture, so I know exactly what they're talking about. But they talk like you've been a part of the community forever. And I think that's what I struggle with when I read people like Francis Chan or other people that are just for the Christian people versus people that talk to everyone like Henry Nouwen or Richard Rohr, who talk to literally everyone. It doesn't matter to them where their background is. They try to talk to everyone. But I can't think of somebody that's a comparison with Francis Chan that does it. But I've read quite a few books that are like, okay, this is why, because you talk like it. You talk like the only people you're talking to is Christians, and that's fair because their general audience is just Christians. But I think that's why I don't care for his writings, is because it's just like that. However, this was such a good information book. Definitely like the whole discipleship thing, wanting to disciple people. In other words, you need to be willing to love other people outside and just love. Personally, that's what I think discipleship is where you're loving on others more than you're loving on yourself, and you're showing love, because a lot of people get preached at. I mean, we have so many different religions and sects, like different divisions of Christianity, Catholicism, Mormons, Latter-day, like all these different religions and stuff like that, and you get preached at constantly. But I think the thing is, you don't need to preach at people, you need to be willing to love. And so though they were all about being disciples, I think the biggest thing is being able to show love, because Jesus literally went into like he would sit with the tax collectors, the prostitutes, like all this kind of stuff, and he would be with them and be like, I still love you. Like, I don't care what your history is. You might be considered the most vile people on the earth, but like, I still love you. And still showing compassion that way is what I would recommend. That more of what I would take rather than just discipleship, because just discipleship is to the Christian world is just preaching the gospel at people a lot. And I'm just like, that's not, I know that's not what they were trying to say, but I'm thinking that's what Christianese usually think. And I'm like, well, I know that they're more about being with people and loving and reaching out to other people. And so I was like, I think they mean more like this than this, and I might be putting words in their mouth, and this could totally be me being wrong. But that's what I took from it, that you need to be more loving towards other people, like be in people's situations, be able to willing to take people into your house, which is definitely what they talk about. They talk about all the giving out of themselves, about adopting people, about trying to stop different things, and just all things of love, and just focusing God's love towards others, and just making sure that you have a loving relationship with God so that you can be loving towards others, and being not only loving towards, if you have a spouse, but also to your kids and stuff like that, but not letting them become the center. That's the big thing, is not allowing them to become center. And I think, though they don't address it, one of the biggest things that I see is people that marry early, their whole identity becomes that person that they're with. They're like, I'm so-and-so's husband, I'm so-and-so's wife, or those are my kids, or I'm so-and-so's kid, parents, or whatever. And it doesn't come that you have your own identity, and your own identity in Christ. And I think me being older, not like ancient, but older, and still not married, makes me think I have my identity. I know who I am. I know who I am in God, and I don't expect to merge with somebody, but I still want to be my individual self. And I think that's another big thing is you don't want to be, now I can't, I'm totally taking stuff my mom and dad have taught me, and they've been married 30 plus years. So that's, and actually a lot of our family friends married later in life, and because they did, and they all have an individuality. One of my family friends, she's still a nurse, and her husband is still got is a mechanic. Like, they still had their own identities when they came into the marriage, and they still have their own identities. They're still married, and they're loving, and they have amazing kids, but they still have their own identity. Just like my parents. My mom has been a teacher and been an entrepreneur. Now she's a chaplain. And my dad has been a heavy equipment mechanic, welder, all this kind of stuff. But they might be one, but they still have their own identities. And I think in the Christian world, you are expected to marry early, and then that becomes your whole life. And I think that's what they're trying to say. Like, don't allow that to become your whole life. Don't allow everything to become centered on your spouse. Don't allow everything to become centered on your kids. It's better to be centered towards God and centered towards loving other people and having an identity outside of the thing. I thought it was interesting. One of my favorite passages of the entire Bible is actually Proverbs 31, because for me, my family's super supportive about me being a woman that's studying engineering and trying to be an engineer. But you'd be surprised that not everybody is really for women being active outside the house. It's kind of interesting when you tell other people, they're like, oh, you want to be an engineer? Okay, cool. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be a partner, not just a thing. And like, the fact that Proverbs 31 says that women should not only be partners to their husbands, but also be active, be mindful of what they're doing, have business sense, look at what she's done and see the gain. Like, those are like fundamental facts that I think people are just like, it goes either one or two extremes. It goes, oh, you should serve your husband and do what he says, which I'm like, okay, yes, you should serve with your husband, but you should also be your independent person. Or I should be completely independent. I don't need anybody. And that's also wrong. So you have to like find that line. And I think it was interesting that they didn't even bring up that whole individuality and stuff like that. By the way, if you haven't noticed, I have a lot of opinions. If you don't agree with them, that's totally okay. I totally understand. I don't agree with opinions about a lot of things. I do think it was super encouraging because they definitely talk about putting others first. That's mainly like one of the biggest things. I think putting others first, and even though they are in a relationship, they put others first, and they put, or not others first, but God first. And I think it's just interesting. One other thing that I just disagree philosophy-wise on, because I think that you should be giving till the day you die. That's like my principle, and like my mom is always learning and growing, and she is 63, 64? I am really bad with ages. Anyway, and she's studying her master's so that she can help others and be a biblical counselor and be better serving our community and being a chaplain. And I think she's pretty amazing. I love my mommy. And she's always been her individual person, but she's always been a co-person with my dad. It hasn't been like, done, 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 this is the way things are. My mom's always been like, no, this is like, you are a woman, you should be independent too. You don't have to have your identity wrapped up in a man. And I think growing up in the Christian world, that is one of the main things, that you have to have your identity in a man. And I think that should be like one of the things, like, no, your identity isn't in a man, it's in God. And they do a good job of making sure that you have your identity more in God. I would almost say I would want more of that, because like I just think that you need more of that. More emphasis on identity, individual identity, as well as being identified together, and knowing that you're in a relationship with God. Anyway, I definitely actually recommend it, surprisingly enough. Of course, take it with a grain of salt, like you should take everything with a grain of salt, because you shouldn't believe 100% what everybody says, because we're all sinners. We all fail. Woohoo! But but appreciate it for what it is, and how they do have a great way of reaching out to people, and allowing men and women to not divorce and stuff like that. And I just think, oh, the other thing is they emphasize on not making children the center of the home, and that is something I super agree. I think you need to all have your own activities, because and they even mentioned it, which is so funny, because my mom and I have been discussing this. When you make a child the center of a home, they think they can control everything, and they end up being bitter and angry about the family. I've definitely seen that happen, like I was staying with somebody, and I got to see it like firsthand, of how the parents didn't have any authority at all, and their daughter had complete authority. And I was just in shock I was just in shock. I couldn't believe how, like, they would let the child speak to them like that. And I was just like, that's just not, you cannot be that disrespectful ever. Like, I have never been that disrespectful ever in my entire life. And I have been disrespectful quite a bit. I have been very rude. I'm not perfect at all. So I've definitely been disrespectful, but this was so disrespectful that I couldn't believe it. And it was because the child was the center of the home, versus God being the center of the home, or the people being in control, because they let the child run the entire thing. And the fact that they emphasize that the child shouldn't run the home, they should not run the home, because they're little itty bitty things. Like, I'm sorry, but they have been on this earth a lot less long than you have. No matter what your age is, they have been on the earth less than you have, and you know more. And so letting the child be the center of the home is just not okay. Anyway, my rant is done. Definitely read the book. I think you could learn a lot more than I rant and rave about. If you enjoyed this video, I'm so glad. If you did not, good luck next time. Anyway, if you did like it, subscribe, and type any suggestions, and y'all have a great day.